Dr. Elena Kovacs wiped condensation from her visor as she approached the zero-gravity smelting chamber. Saturn's rings gleamed beyond the reinforced viewport, their icy particles catching the distant sunlight like diamond dust. 6 months in the orbital foundries of Titan manufacturing had taught her to appreciate such views, moments of beauty amid the industrial monotony. Initiating test sequence 47, she announced to the lab's recording system. Applying electromagnetic frequency pattern Delta 9 to iron sample C12 in zero-gravity conditions. She adjusted the controls, sending precise electromagnetic pulses through the suspended blob of molten iron. The metal shimmered, its surface rippling as the frequencies penetrated its molecular structure. Then she heard it. Not with her ears. Sound couldn't travel through the vacuum chamber, but through the monitoring equipment. A harmonious pattern, almost musical, emanating from the metal itself. "This can't be right," she muttered, checking her instruments. According to every reading, the iron was singing. 3 days later, Elena sat alone in her quarters, surrounded by holographic data displays. Her department head had dismissed her findings as sensor anomalies, ordering her to return to approved research protocols. But Elena couldn't let it go. The iron's harmonic response defied known physics. The patterns propagated through space at speeds that should be impossible. Her door chimed. "Dr. Kovacs, your shift started 20 minutes ago." The voice of her assistant, Marcus, carried concern rather than accusation. "I'll be there shortly," she replied, hastily saving her unauthorized analysis. That night, Elena returned to her lab after hours, using her override codes to access the smelting chamber. If the company wouldn't investigate this phenomenon, she would on her own time. She prepared a new sample, this time with refined iron of unprecedented purity. The harmonic response was immediate and stronger than before, complex patterns that reminded her of language. She recorded everything, downloading the data to her personal devices. As days passed, Elena grew more isolated. She skipped meals in the common area, slept only a few hours each night, and spoke to colleagues only when necessary. Dark circles formed under her eyes, but her gaze burned with intensity when she watched her iron samples sing. On the 17th night of her secret research, something changed. She entered her darkened lab to find the previous day's sample resonating without any input. The iron trembled in its containment field, emitting harmonics she hadn't programmed. "It's responding," she whispered, rushing to the monitoring station. But to what? The answer came 3 hours later, when her private terminal intercepted a deep space communication from a monitoring station near Neptune. Unknown signals detected. Origin: beyond Kuiper Belt. Pattern: regular, artificial. Elena's hand shook as she overlaid the deep space signals with her iron's harmonic patterns. The match was undeniable. Something out there was producing the exact frequencies her iron responded to. She hacked into the company's secure database, downloading the complete signal data. As the files transferred, emergency lights flashed in the corridor. She triggered a security alert. "Dr. Kovacs." Security Chief Rivera's voice boomed through the intercom. "Exit the lab immediately. You're accessing restricted data." Elena worked frantically, completing her analysis as the door mechanism whirred with override attempts. The results confirmed everything. The deep space signals were responding specifically to her experimental frequencies. As security breached the door, the station's communications array suddenly overloaded. Every screen in the lab illuminated with scrolling patterns, iron harmonics translated into visual data. The security team froze, weapons half-raised, as a message formed across Elena's main display. "We AAVHEARDU. We are coming." Elena looked at the stunned faces of the security team, then back at the message. Humanity's first contact would not be through official channels or diplomatic overtures. It would be through iron, singing across the stars. "Prisoner or scientific advisor?" Elena asked, glancing around her luxurious quarters on Europa Station. "I can't quite tell." "Admiral Chung," head of United Earth Space Command's First Contact Division, didn't smile. That depends on whether your iron songs brought us saviors or executioners, Doctor. 3 weeks had passed since her arrest at Saturn. 3 weeks of interrogations, explanations, and watching Earth's military scramble as the massive alien vessel approached, broadcasting harmonics that matched her experimental frequencies perfectly. "They're entering Earth orbit," a young officer announced from the doorway. "The Security Council is requesting Dr. Kovacs." The diplomatic chamber buzzed with tension as Elena entered. Representatives from Earth's unified government occupied one side of the massive table. The other remained empty, awaiting the alien delegation. "Remember," Admiral Chung addressed the assembly, "Dr. Kovacs speaks first." She established initial contact, however unintentionally. The air shimmered as the aliens arrived, not through doors but in a cascade of metallic harmonics. Elena gasped. The beings stood roughly humanoid, but their bodies consisted of interlocking metal plates that shifted and realigned with each movement, producing musical tones. The leader's surface gleamed with iridescent patterns that flowed like liquid. "I am Ambassador Resonance," the translator rendered from the being's melodic sounds. "We are the harmonic collective. We hear the iron song in your world's voice." Elena stepped forward. "I am Dr. Elena Kovacs. I discovered the resonance patterns accidentally." The ambassador's plates shifted in what might have been surprise. Accidentally. Most species develop resonance communication over thousands of years. As the formal introductions continued, Commander Jackson Wei, a compact man with intense eyes and the bearing of a career military officer, studied the aliens from his position near the wall. Something about their movements bothered him. Subtle patterns beneath the obvious communication. He scribbled a note and passed it to an aide, who delivered it to Elena. "They're not just talking to us. They're arguing among themselves about whether to save us or abandon us." Elena hesitated only briefly before addressing Ambassador Resonance. "Your delegation seems divided on something. Perhaps we should speak plainly." The chamber fell silent. The ambassador's plates shifted rapidly, producing discordant tones. "Perceptive," Resonance finally responded. "We debate your worthiness of warning." "Warning about what?" Admiral Chung demanded. "You are not the only civilization to master iron resonance. You are merely the youngest." The ambassador's form reconfigured. "Your rapid development has drawn attention, not all of it welcome." A holographic display formed between them, showing crystalline vessels of alien design. The Silicate Dominion believes that species who master iron are inherently dangerous. They systematically eliminate such civilizations before they expand beyond their home systems. Wei stepped forward without permission. "These crystal ships, have they visited Earth before?" "Unlikely," Resonance responded, though they often send advanced probes disguised as natural formations. Wei's face hardened. 5 years ago, crystalline structures grew through a mining colony on Mars. Official explanation: unusual mineral formation. My family was stationed there. None survived. Elena stared at him, suddenly understanding his interest. "Young Commander," Ambassador Resonance's tone shifted, "your instincts serve you well. Those were indeed silicate scout drones, assessing your world's defenses." Admiral Chung rose. "Are you saying we've been under observation? That these silicates plan to attack?" "Not plan," the ambassador corrected. "They have already dispatched an extermination fleet. You have 8 months before they arrive." "And you?" Elena asked. "Will you help us?" The ambassador's plates contracted, producing a mournful tone. "Ancient treaties prevent direct military intervention. But we did not travel here merely to deliver doom." A smaller harmonic stepped forward, extending a metallic appendage that unfurled to reveal a device shaped like a tuning fork. "We offer knowledge," Resonance continued. "Your iron songs are crude, but with refinement, they may yet become your shield." Wei exchanged glances with Elena. "And if this knowledge isn't enough?" The ambassador's plates aligned into a rigid formation. Then humanity's song will join 17 others that echo only in memory. And the universe will be poorer for its silence. 17 civilizations, Elena whispered, her voice barely audible over the heated arguments of the United Earth Council. All of them gone. The emergency session had devolved into chaos. 2 weeks after the Harmonic Collective's warning, Earth's leadership remained paralyzed between factions advocating surrender, negotiation, or all-out military preparation. The Harmonics could be lying, insisted the Chinese representative, creating a threat to manipulate us. To what end? Countered the African Union speaker. They've offered technology, not demanded our resources. Elena caught Wei's eye across the chamber. After their initial meeting with the Harmonics, they'd been paired together, scientist and soldier, to evaluate defensive options. Their growing partnership was unofficial but effective. Wei nodded subtly toward the exit. Elena excused herself and followed him into the corridor. They'll debate until the silicates are in orbit, Wei said, checking that they weren't overheard. I've accessed classified footage the Harmonics provided. You need to see it. In Wei's secure quarters, holographic images flickered to life. Crystal ships approaching a blue-green world. Beams of coherent light struck the planet's surface, transforming cities into dust. But what horrified Elena most was the effect on metal structures. They simply disintegrated, converted to fine powder that scattered in the wind. Their weapons target metallic atomic bonds, Wei explained, particularly effective against iron-based technology and infrastructure. Our entire civilization, Elena realized. Everything from power grids to medical equipment. Exactly. Wei shut down the projection. While the council debates, I've been gathering a team. Loyal officers, top engineers, people who understand what we're facing. Elena studied him. You're planning something unauthorized. Ambassador Resonance has a contact, an elder harmonic named Distant Echo who disagrees with their non-intervention policy. He's willing to share advanced resonance technology, but the transaction must be unofficial. You're talking about treason, Elena said. Wei's expression hardened. I'm talking about survival. After my family died, I spent 3 years investigating those crystal formations. My reports were buried. Now I know why. We've been infiltrated at the highest levels. That's a serious accusation. Those mining accidents happen near critical infrastructure or military installations. Perfect reconnaissance. We leaned closer. Someone is suppressing information about the silicate presence. Maybe they believe appeasement will work. Maybe they're compromised. Either way, we can't wait for official channels. Elena considered the options. Working outside the system meant becoming fugitives, but waiting for bureaucratic consensus might doom humanity. What exactly are you proposing? Tonight, we take a maintenance shuttle to the harmonic vessel. Meet with Distant Echo. Secure the technology. My people on Mars have established a facility in the abandoned Valles Marineris mines. We'll develop defenses there. And if we're caught, court-martial, imprisonment, execution, possibly. Wei's voice was matter-of-fact. But if we do nothing, there won't be courts left to try us. Hours later, under cover of a scheduled supply delivery, their unmarked shuttle approached the massive harmonic vessel. Elena's heart pounded as they navigated through a translucent energy field and into a docking bay that hummed with metallic resonance. Distant Echo awaited them, older than Ambassador Resonance, his metal plates weathered and engraved with complex patterns. Without formal greeting, he presented a container shaped like a nautilus shell. Resonance amplifiers, he explained, his translated voice tinged with urgency, and frequency maps of silicate vulnerabilities. Against our laws to share, but extinction is a greater crime than disobedience. As they secured the technology, alarms blared through the harmonic vessel. You've been discovered, Distant Echo warned, both by your people and mine. Go now, become the discordant note that shatters crystal. They barely escaped, outrunning Earth's security vessels by diving into Saturn's rings, using ice fragments to mask their signature. When they emerged, They were officially traitors, their images broadcast throughout the system with orders for their immediate arrest. No turning back, Wei said as they set course for Mars. Elena clutched the alien container. Only forward. At the speed of iron. The abandoned mining complex in Valles Marineris echoed with the sounds of desperate innovation. 6 weeks since their escape from Earth, Elena and Wei had transformed the forgotten tunnels into humanity's last, best hope. An unauthorized research facility staffed by brilliant minds who'd chosen science over security, possibility over permission. Again, Elena instructed the assembled team. 7 engineers and 3 former Special Forces operators stood in formation around a crystalline sample recovered from the Mars colony disaster. Each held a handheld resonator tuned to specific frequencies. "Synchronize on my mark," Wei commanded, his military bearing unwavering despite weeks of exhaustion. 3, 2, 1. Project. The team activated their devices simultaneously while vocalizing a sustained note. The crystal sample vibrated, developed fracture lines, then shattered explosively. Fragments skittered across the laboratory floor. Progress, Elena noted, reviewing sensor data. Destruction time reduced by 30%. Not enough, Wei countered. A silicate vessel won't stand still while we serenade it for 47 seconds. Dr. Sato, a vocal specialist who defected from Europa Station, stepped forward. The human component is the variable we need to control. Look at these waveform analyses. Each person's voice creates unique interference patterns with the resonators. Elena studied the readings. The devices amplify whatever we project into them. Our voices aren't just triggering the technology. They're an integral component. Like instruments in an orchestra, we mused, each playing a specific part in a larger composition. Exactly. Elena turned to Sato. We need to compose specific vocal harmonics for maximum effect against crystalline structures. Train our people to sing the frequencies the silicates are most vulnerable to. You want to weaponize choir practice? Wei asked, but his skeptical tone couldn't hide his interest. I want to create the Iron Choir, Elena replied. Soldiers whose voices become weapons when coupled with resonator technology. As weeks passed, their ragtag operation expanded. Sympathizers throughout the system smuggled equipment and personnel to Mars. The first Iron Choir, 30 operators with precisely trained vocal ranges, achieved remarkable results, reducing crystalline destruction time to 12 seconds. Yet challenges mounted. Resources dwindled as Earth authorities blockaded suspected smuggling routes, and disturbing reports filtered in. Unusual crystal formations appearing near major population centers on Earth, growing in patterns too regular to be natural. They're already here, Wei concluded during a late-night strategy session. Advance infiltration, establishing beachheads before the main fleet arrives. We need to confirm, Elena said. If these are indeed silicate formations, we could test our technology against actual enemy structures. The mission was approved. A high-risk insertion to a reported crystal site outside New Santiago. Wei insisted on leading personally, selecting 8 members of the Iron Choir to accompany him. Elena worked through the night before their departure, fine-tuning the resonators. When Wei came to collect his equipment, she noticed something he'd been hiding. A faint crystalline shimmer beneath the skin of his left forearm. How long? She asked quietly. Wei's expression remained neutral. 3 weeks. It's spreading slowly. From the sample we've been testing. Most likely. Don't tell the others. Why, if you're infected with silicate material, then I'm already dead, he finished. But before that happens, I'll make them pay for my family. He locked eyes with her. You can study what happens to me. Make the technology better. The raid on New Santiago proved their technology worked. The crystal formation shattered under the Iron Choir's harmonized assault. But victory came at terrible cost. Wei returned with half his team, the survivors carrying bizarre crystalline wounds that sparkled beneath their skin. The formation released spores when it destabilized, Wei reported, his voice hollow. microscopic crystals that penetrate armor. Rodriguez and Tamara never made it back to the ship. The transformation was too fast. That night, Elena found Y alone in the medical bay, studying his arm where the crystallization had spread to his elbow, geometric patterns forming beneath his skin. "I can feel them," he whispered. "Their frequencies, their patterns. Sometimes I hear singing, not like ours. Colder. Perfect." Elena gripped his good hand. "We'll find a way to stop it." "No." Y's eyes met hers, clear and determined despite his condition. "Find a way to use it." The Mars Facilities Command Center erupted in chaos as emergency transmissions flooded the communications array. "Jupiter stations are under attack," Lieutenant Park reported, her voice tight with shock. "The Silicate Fleet, it's 3 months early." Elena gripped the edge of the holographic display, watching as crystal ships tore through Jupiter's orbital defenses. "Casualties. Total," Park whispered. "Ganymede Research Station, Io mining platforms, the Callisto colonies, all gone. Earth's hastily assembled defense fleet mobilized, a patchwork of converted freighters and outdated military vessels armed with conventional weapons and experimental resonators. Against the crystalline armada, they'd never stood a chance." The first engagement in Jupiter's orbit lasted less than 20 minutes, with Earth forces suffering 90% casualties. "We need to accelerate deployment of the iron cores," Elena told her team. "Every vessel needs at least one resonator squad." We stood silently at the back of the room, the crystalline growth now covering his entire left arm and spreading across his shoulder. He'd taken to wearing a specialized containment sleeve, but everyone knew what lurked beneath. "Conventional tactics won't work," he finally said. "The silicates operate in perfect geometric formations that maximize their weapons coverage. We need asymmetrical approaches." That night, Y unveiled his plan. Thunder runs, utilizing small, agile ships with iron core teams that could slip past silicate defenses to deliver targeted resonance attacks. Elena recognized the strategy's potential, but also its terrible cost. "Suicide missions," she said when they were alone. We didn't deny it. "High casualty probability, yes, but if we can get close enough." "Your arm," Elena nodded toward his concealed limb. "It's giving you insights into their tactics, isn't it?" "More than tactics." Way's voice dropped. "I can almost hear their communications. Not words, but patterns. Frequencies. The crystalline structures function like receiver transmitters." The first Thunder run launched 3 days later. 16 converted scout ships, each carrying a 5-person iron core team. Their target, a lone silicate destroyer near Europa that had separated from the main fleet. Elena monitored from Mars, her breath caught in her throat as the tiny vessels approached the massive crystal ship. 15 were destroyed before reaching their target. The 16th, commanded by Way himself, penetrated the destroyer's defensive perimeter. Initiating harmonic sequence, Way's transmission crackled through the static. "Core, prepare vocalization pattern theta." What followed stunned everyone watching. The 5 human voices, amplified and harmonized through resonator technology, created a complex waveform that visibly destabilized the crystal vessel. Fracture lines spread across its surface, networks of cracks propagating until the entire ship shattered into a glittering cloud of fragments. The victory at Europa galvanized humanity. Underground resistance cells on Earth and throughout the colonies rallied to the cause. More Thunder Run teams formed, adopting Way's tactics with increasing success. But each victory came with a price. Y returned from his 3rd mission barely conscious, the crystallization having spread across his chest. In the medical bay, Elena discovered a horrifying truth. Each time he fine-tuned the resonators using his infected arm, the crystallization accelerated. The resonance frequencies, she realized. They're stimulating the crystal's growth. A fair trade. Y managed through pain-clenched teeth. The infection gives me insight into their weaknesses. I can hear the precise frequencies that will shatter them. Elena gripped his remaining human hand. There must be another way. There isn't. Way's eyes locked with hers, fever bright. But I need you to promise me something, Elena. If the crystallization reaches my brain, if I start to change completely, don't ask me that. You'll need to end it. His grip tightened. I won't become what killed my family. I won't be used against humanity. Before Elena could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Lieutenant Park burst into the medical bay. Silicate vessels detected on approach to Mars, she reported breathlessly. 3 destroyer-class ships. They've found us. Way pushed himself upright, crystalline patterns gleaming beneath his skin. Prepare all available Thunder Run teams, he ordered, and get me to my ship. This is what we've trained for. Elena watched him leave, knowing each mission pushed him closer to the transformation he feared most, and that she might soon have to fulfill her unspoken promise. The Battle of Mars became the turning point. Against all odds, Way's Thunder Run squadrons repelled the Silicate attack, destroying 2 destroyer-class vessels and forcing the third to retreat. Word of the victory spread throughout the system via encrypted channels, igniting hope where only desperation had existed. 2 weeks later, as Elena calibrated a new generation of resonators, Lieutenant Park interrupted with unexpected news. Ships approaching from the outer system. Civilian vessels flying surrender flags. Silicate trick? Elena asked. Doesn't appear so. They're broadcasting human identification codes from colonies we thought were destroyed. The arrivals transformed their resistance movement. Representatives from Europa's underwater habitats, Titan's methane refineries, and Mercury's solar forges, all supposedly annihilated in the initial Silicate assault, had survived by going dark, developing their own defense technologies in isolation. We built our resonators beneath Europa's ice, explained Dr. Adeyemi, leader of the Europa contingent. The kilometers of water above us mask our activities. We discovered that immense pressure creates deep resonance iron with unique harmonic properties. Captain Yoshida of Titan presented her contribution. Our engineers developed amplifiers that can project resonance waves across vast distances, using Saturn's magnetic field as a carrier. Most surprising were the Mercury survivors. The sun-forged metals from our solar foundries can sustain resonance patterns for days without power input, their chief metallurgist demonstrated, activating a small disk that continued humming long after the initial frequency was applied. Elena suddenly understood. It's not just about destruction. Each colony developed different applications of the same fundamental technology, based on their unique environments. Wei, now wearing an exoskeleton to support his increasingly crystallized body, saw the strategic implications immediately. If we combine these approaches, we could create a solar system-wide defense network. Elena finished. A synchronized iron symphony that could disrupt the entire Silicate fleet simultaneously. Implementing such an ambitious plan required overcoming bitter colonial rivalries that had divided humanity for generations. Elena called for an Iron Council. Representatives from every surviving human settlement gathered in the Mars facility to coordinate their efforts. The meeting devolved into chaos almost immediately. Mercury contributed more resources per capita than any other colony, their representative insisted. We deserve primary control of the network. Europa's deep resonance technology is the foundation of the entire system, Dr. Adeyemi countered. Without our research, none of this would be possible. Earth's military attaché, a recent defector, laughed bitterly. You're arguing over control of a network that doesn't exist yet, while my planet burns. As the shouting intensified, Wei struggled to rise. His breathing labored inside his containment suit. Enough, he began, but his voice faltered. Suddenly, his crystalline arm pulsed with light. Wei collapsed, his exoskeleton failing as he crashed to the floor. Geometric patterns spread visibly across his chest, glowing through his clothing. Medical team, Elena shouted, rushing to his side. In the medical bay, doctors worked frantically to slow the crystallization. Alina watched through the observation window, her hand pressed against the glass. His transformation is accelerating, the chief physician reported. The crystal has reached his lymphatic system and is approaching his heart. Alina made her decision. Prepare the experimental resonator, she instructed, entering the isolation chamber. The one tuned specifically to human vocal patterns. That's untested, the physician protested. You could kill him. He's dying anyway, Alina replied, her voice breaking. But first, I need samples of his crystalline tissue. Hurry. As the medical team extracted glittering fragments from Wei's arm, Alina leaned close to his ear. I'm not letting you go, she whispered. Not like this. The coda block, Wei gasped, his eyes feverish. In my quarters, frequency patterns. I've been documenting what I hear. Hours later, Alina calibrated the modified resonator against Wei's extracted crystal samples. Her theory was desperate but sound, using Wei's unique human voice pattern as a carrier wave to disrupt the crystallization from within. As she prepared to activate the device, alarms blared throughout the facility. Lieutenant Park burst into the medical bay, her face ashen. The main silicate armada has entered the solar system, she reported. Thousands of ships. They'll reach Mars orbit in hours. Alina looked down at Wei's unconscious form. Then we're out of time. The silicate armada arrived in perfect geometric formation. Thousands of crystalline vessels arranged in fractal patterns that glittered against the void of space. Humanity's assembled defense fleet seemed pathetically small in comparison, a scattered array of mismatched ships gathered from across the colonies. In the Mars Command Center, Alina directed final preparations for the Iron Symphony Network. Representatives from each colony synchronized their unique resonator technologies, creating a web of frequencies designed to blanket the solar system. Europa Deep Resonance Nodes operational, Dr. Adeyemi reported. Titan amplification grid aligned, Captain Yoshida confirmed. Mercury sustained output relays active, came the next update. One by one, the components linked together, forming humanity's last defense. Yet the system remained incomplete. The frequencies weren't properly harmonized without Wei's insights into silicate vulnerabilities. Alina split her attention between the battle unfolding above and the medical bay where Wei lay comatose, her modified resonator humming beside him. The device had slowed his crystallization, but failed to reverse it. First wave of thunder runs engaging, Lieutenant Park announced. The small, agile ships darted between the massive crystal vessels, iron cores deploying their harmonic weapons. Several silicate ships shattered, but for each one destroyed, 3 Thunder Runners were lost. Activate the Iron Symphony, Alina ordered. Throughout the solar system, resonators began their coordinated song, human voices providing the crucial modulation. The effect was immediate. Silicate ships showed signs of structural stress, fracture lines appearing across their surfaces. But the victory was short-lived. The Dominion adapted quickly, shifting their crystalline formations to resist the harmonics. One by one, the human frequencies were neutralized. They're learning, Dr. Adeyemi observed grimly, changing their molecular structure to dampen our resonance patterns. Alina watched in despair as humanity's advantage evaporated. The silicate counterattack began, systematic and devastating. Mercury's relays were the first to fall silent, followed by several of Titan's amplification nodes. We need Wei's frequency insights, Alina muttered, rushing back to the medical bay. To her shock, Wei's monitoring equipment had flatlined. But he wasn't dead. He was sitting upright, eyes open, crystalline patterns pulsing beneath his skin. I hear them, he whispered, voice eerily harmonic. All of them. The Queen Crystal directs them. From the central vessel. Wei. Alina approached cautiously. Are you? His human eye focused on her, while his crystallized eye glowed with inner light. Still me. For now. The resonator created a connection. I can hear their frequencies, their commands. Can you give us the patterns to disrupt them? Better. Wei staggered to his feet, I can deliver them personally." Despite medical protests, Wei made his way to the command center, his movements stiff but determined. The tactical display showed Earth's defenses crumbling, colony after colony going silent as the silicate advance continued. "The entire fleet is controlled by a single queen crystal," Wei explained, manipulating the holographic display with his crystalline hand. "Here, aboard the central vessel. It's not just their commander, it's their communications hub. Disrupt it, and the entire network collapses." "How?" Elena demanded. "We've lost half our Thunder Run capacity." "I'll go," Wei said simply. "This body," he gestured to his partially crystallized form, "can bypass their defenses. They'll read me as one of them." Elena shook her head. "Even if you could reach the command ship, what then?" Wei held up a small resonator, modified with components from his own crystallized tissue. A tuned disruptor, specifically calibrated to the Queen's unique frequency. I designed it while unconscious, seeing through both human and silicate perception. "A suicide mission," Elena whispered. "A necessary one." Wei's remaining human features softened. "The resonator's detonation will shatter all crystalline structures in its radius, including parts of me, but it's the only way." As the last Thunder Run ship was prepared, the Iron Council gathered to witness Wei's departure. He stood before them, a hybrid being caught between worlds, embodying humanity's desperate adaptability. "When the Queen Crystal falls, be ready," he instructed. "The remaining fleet will be briefly vulnerable to a coordinated assault. Make it count." Elena approached as he prepared to board. Words failed her. Wei understood. "If I don't return." "I know," she interrupted. "I'll finish our work. I'll make sure humanity remembers what we learned here." "Not just that," Wei said, his voice resonating with both human emotion and crystalline harmonics. "Make sure they remember that it wasn't our technology that saved us. It was our voices, joined together." Wei's small vessel approached the massive silicate command ship, a crystalline cathedral dwarfing everything around it. From the Mars Command Center, Elena and the Iron Council watched through his transmission feed, holding their collective breath. "Approaching outer defensive perimeter," Wei reported, his voice now carrying a harmonic undertone. "No reaction from Sentinel crystals. They're reading me as one of them." The ruse worked. Wei's hybrid nature, part human, part crystalline, allowed him to slip through the silicate defenses. His ship docked uncontested on the command vessel's surface, the crystal structure actually growing around his hull, incorporating it. "I'm proceeding on foot," Wei transmitted, resonator armed. Inside the massive ship, Wei navigated through translucent corridors that pulsed with light. His transmission showed a breathtaking architecture of impossible geometries and perfect symmetry. "Beautiful," he whispered. In another context, we might have called them artists. As he approached the central chamber, the signal began breaking up. The last clear image showed Wei standing before a massive crystalline formation. The Queen Crystal, a multifaceted structure that shimmered with intelligence. In position came his final transmission. "Elena, thank you for everything. Humanity's song will continue." Initiating resonator in 3, 2. The transmission cut to static. For a terrifying moment, nothing happened. Then, throughout the system, the silicate vessels trembled. Fracture lines appeared across their perfect surfaces, spreading in accelerating patterns. One by one, the crystal ships shattered, dissolving into glittering clouds of fragments. Elena stared at the tactical display in disbelief. He did it. The victory came at devastating cost. Nearly 40% of human colonies had been destroyed. Earth's major cities lay in ruins. Billions dead. Yet against impossible odds, humanity had survived. In the aftermath, search teams combed the debris field where the silicate command ship had been. Elena refused to abandon hope, directing resources to the search long after others had given up. 3 weeks later, a recovery vessel located a small escape pod drifting among the crystalline fragments. Inside, they found Wei. unconscious but alive. His crystalline parts had shattered, leaving only his human tissues intact. Impossible, the medical team declared when they examined him. The resonator should have destroyed all crystalline structures in its radius, including his infected tissues. Not impossible, Alina corrected, studying Wei's readings. He modified the resonator to target only silicate-specific frequencies, preserving his human crystal hybrid tissues. Then the shock of the Queen's destruction shattered his crystalline components anyway. He couldn't have known that would happen, Dr. Adeyemi observed. Alina smiled. He didn't. He expected to die. This was just hope. 1 year later, aboard the Thunderstrike, humanity's first dedicated embassy ship, Alina stood at the observation deck. Wei joined her, his new prosthetic arm gleaming with resonance-attuned iron that hummed softly with each movement. "Nervous?" she asked. Wei adjusted his diplomatic uniform. First human ambassador to the Harmonic Collective. Terrified. "You'll do fine," Alina assured him. "After all, you speak their language now." The defeat of the Silicate Force had transformed the galaxy's political landscape. The Harmonic Collective had formally recognized Earth as an equal member, while several Silicate breakaway factions, those who opposed the extermination policy, had established cautious diplomatic relations. Ambassador Distant Echo, now openly serving as humanity's advisor, approached them. "The Harmonic Council awaits," he announced, his metal plates shifting in what they now recognized as respect. "They are eager to learn how humans advanced iron resonance technology so rapidly. We'll share what we've learned," Wei promised, "and what we've created." Alina touched the small resonator pendant at her throat, a miniaturized version of the technology that had saved them, now repurposed for medicine, communication, and a dozen other peaceful applications. As the embassy ship approached the Harmonic homeworld, they received an unexpected transmission. A complex iron song from beyond the charted galaxy, bearing patterns unlike anything recorded before. "New voices," Wei murmured. "More iron singers. Or old ones, reaching out again now that the silicate threat is diminished," Alina suggested. The diplomatic team gathered in the ship's resonance chamber. Humans, harmonics, and even representatives from the Silicate Reformation faction joined their voices in response. An iron symphony carrying outward into the cosmos. Alina watched as Wei's prosthetic arm glowed with each note, the metal and man in perfect harmony. On the ship's sensors, distant responses appeared, dozens of new signatures from previously unknown regions of space, joining humanity's song as it echoed across the stars. The universe, they discovered, had been waiting for their voice all along.